Hi, Ali. Thank you so much for joining today on Lessons in Filmmaking. You're an incredible comedian, and aside from that, I think you're also an incredible storyteller. I mean, a lot of your humor comes from telling stories from your experiences, and one of my favorites is I'm sure you get asked to tell it all the time is a fight you saw between two pimps. And what you did great was that the story wasn't about that. The story was about a hat on a car that sort of led to that. And that's what makes good movies. What I wanted to talk to you about was because you have a unique perspective as a comedian in sort of the changing landscape. Obviously, comedy movies have changed, but also the trajectory for comedians has changed. Where sort of it used to be, you become a comedian and the ultimate success was comedy movies. Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. It was about making the comedy movies. Whereas now, sort of the stand-up special has become the sort of success benchmark for a comedian. How is that viewed sort of in the world of stand-up by comedians?
I think it's kind of that's a good account, but I think that the special was first before the measuring stick was a special, and then after years and years and years, it became where you have to have a movie or you have to have a sitcom, um, which is the thing that I've been fighting against my almost my whole career, that a sitcom or a movie does not make you a great stand-up. That makes you a good actor or a good comedic actor. A special is the benchmark of how great you are as a stand-up, and how that's the and it has to be a special that can be viewed by people. It can't be I shot my own thing, I called it a special. Then I think that specials nowadays, the majority of them are not special, but the ones that are the benchmarks for people's career. You know, some people can get a lot of notoriety off of something that's very subpar that really wasn't special. It was a a show, but it wasn't special. It wasn't anything that'll resonate with you for years and years. That's the thing about the greats. Live from Sunset Strip is just as funny to me as it was when I saw it when I was a kid, because it the things that resonated in the inside of the special still hold true now. Like when I was a kid, I laughed at this story about breaking the lamp that he told, because I'm a kid that broke a lamp. So now I have children that has broken lamps. That I go, it goes back to the same thing. Like, what lamp? The lamp that's broken. like when you talk about what lamp. So, but I don't think that some of these works that have been done in the last, I'm gonna give it the last 15 years, I personally don't see them as specials. Maybe somebody does, but it won't resonate with me for the long haul. But it has been some that have. Tambourine was a great special to me. Chris Rock's Tambourine. Like it was when I watched it, and then I waited and I went back and watched it again months later. And I was like, man, this because it's saying something. I think a great special has to be saying something, has to be presenting something. It can't be you're saying, you can't be your club act with extra lights on. It has to be it has to be a special. So I
Yeah,
think it's a deeper dive with me into what are we calling specials, and I do think the benchmark for a comic to be great is his body of work in comedy. Nothing else. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
get.
yeah,
Go ahead.
it's interesting you mentioned because the way you're describing the special is in sort of cinematic terms. The way, it has to be about something. What's the narrative thread? What's the beginning, middle, and the end? It's not just, you know, jokes being told with better lighting. How do you approach going in to, crafting a special as because specials, I mean, traditionally used to be released in movie theaters. Raw was a huge, it wasn't a special, it was a movie, it was an event. So how do you go about sort of crafting something, even though it's not necessarily going to be on the big screen, but a big screen sort of narrative movie versus just performing and trying to make people laugh?
Well, with me, just speaking for me, my process is I have to find the title of it first. The title has to match what I'm getting ready to speak about. And once I find the title, then I start jotting down the pieces that would start to explain that title. And even though none of this is the beginning, this is like the middle parts. The beginning is the title, the crafting of things that are fit with under this umbrella is all the middle. And then the beginning is whatever the point of it is. Whatever my point is going to be, I'm going to make that point in the beginning and I'm going to make that point. I'm going to circle that point at the end. Like, I want you to know that this whole thing is, no matter the side cause, all these different directions is going, the overall thing is about this. Like you mentioned a story that was weird. I got a phone call from a very unexpected person yesterday about the exact story. Most people want me to tell Mexican got on boots, and some people want me to tell Mitchell or the mushroom story, the things that they saw on Comedy Central. But if somebody's listening to me and they see me in an interview and I tell the story about what made me understand honor. Willie D called me, the legendary rapper Willie D from the Ghetto Boys, called me yesterday and said, "Man, Bobby." His first thing he talked about Bobby. He said, "Man, Bobby, man, Bobby, man." But the thing was, he understood what it was about. It was about the honor. My aunt couldn't move her car because she was honoring the situation. It was like, "And this is some street nonsense. I'm not going to drive off and create no chaos for myself. We just gonna sit here." And in the course of that, I watched some men settle things that had probably could have been settled verbally, but it got past that. So then now they selling the situation physically, but the way that they're doing it is with honor. Like, hey man, this is a duel, and I'm not gonna do anything past what the rules of this situation is. And that man said, "Why you ain't shooting? You had your gun on it." Like, he wanted fan square.
Yeah, and it's sort of like Hitchcock, where the lesson is that what the story is really about. You learn about honor, but it wasn't about two dudes fighting in the middle of the street. It was about because a car couldn't be moved, but it wasn't double parked. It was a hat. It's
That,
sort of, if it was a car blocking, and then it's okay. The power of a car. A car is a big, massive thing. It blocks you in. But because of a hat, you're sort of stuck in the situation, and it becomes an entirely different thing. And that's something to me where it sort of elevates beyond just being a funny story. It sort of goes back to like what the greats used to do, where it's they're describing life, like you mentioned the lamp. We all have a lamp story, and then when we hear someone tell that lamp story, but with the skill of someone who knows how to tell a story and entertain, we think about it differently ourselves, whether we're the kid who broke the lamp or now we're the parent who broke the lamp, you know? And you did a special, you performed at a prison.
Yeah,
And it's not a new concept. I mean, Johnny Cash, BB King performed in jails. But the difference is, for them it was sort of like a trend. This is what you do. With Johnny Cash, it was sort of his theme, this persona he took on. With you, it wasn't just a trend. For you, like you mentioned, full circle, you had done time yourself. So it wasn't just a location, it was part of that story. How did it feel? Like, did you think about the previous events that have taken place behind bars, whether it was concerts or stand-up specials or stuff like that, and how it's different because of your own experience, how you wanted to make it unique?
yeah. That I think, man, you asked some great questions. The thing when we went into the special about bigger than these bars, it was me wanting to go back to paint this picture for people. I'm not Johnny Cash. Um, I'm not Monique. I'm not BB King. I'm not even Richard Pryor that did a movie about being in jail. This is a very unique situation because I'm returning to a place where I learned that I could be jovial. That this is the place that I learned the skill. Like I didn't just joking. Me coming up at Just Joking Comedy Cafe, and people wonder like, why is he advancing so fast? Because I've already been doing this in a form that's a very loose form. There's no comedy clubs in prison. There's no gather around, listen to me. This is a very controlled. This is a thing that comes out of nowhere with me sitting in a prison where it's a lot of melee, and I'm like, yo, and I start telling a story or I start saying something that's funny, and people start to gravitate to me. Can I do this inside and I've been free? But I need them to see me because I was here with them. Maybe I don't. Johnny Cash is a stretch, you know, um, and these other stories are stretches for people who need to be inspired. I'm the common lane, and I'm just like you. Like it's no distinction between me and you besides I focused while I was here. This is the point that I'm making. And for the people who have people that have been incarcerated or are incarcerated, this is not a cakewalk. It's some damaging mental things that's happening to people in here that you may not understand when they come home. You're gonna need to understand and understand. It was a lot of in it. It was so I was so thoughtful in that special big in these bars, and I did not receive the return that I actually wanted because I don't think that the network understood how important it was, one, and how to push it to people. I thought Big in These Bars, really being honest with you, I thought Big in These Bars was going to be like people were going to write theses and papers and give it to people as an understanding like, yo, man, you don't have to return to this place unless you're returning under some very unique circumstances to where you're giving back. And I think the technical thing of it that most comics are miss or most critics are miss. I don't think people understand how hard it is to perform material that you have been practicing and you have been performing in front of a mixed audience, which is male and female. And you're doing these shows, and these people are incarcerated. These people are not incarcerated, and then you go into this building and you have to perform this material separately. Men over here women over here, and you need both to understand, but how do you present it? And that part I didn't think about until I was doing it. Until it was in the middle of, I'm like, I was getting ready to say something, and then I knew that the response for the women were not going to be there because it's all men. And then consciously, I was saying things to myself like, you're about to say that you can end up in prison to people who are already in prison. And God, like right before I'm getting ready to say it, I'm like, this is what I'm about to say. This is the script. This is what's been said. But how do you finesse this to get them to understand? But the biggest thing is they knew I had been there with them. They'd already connected with me, and they knew that I'm not Oz. I'm not Orange is the New Black. We share something in common that you can't get rid of. It doesn't matter your nationality or what ethnic background you're from. You have a number that's burnt into your head. And I said that was the biggest part of the special to me was when I said that number, and everybody else started saying a number. And I hope that the people saw the weight of the psychological things that go into this. So that special to me was masterfully done, and not because it's my work, because I thought about all the stuff that it took to do it, to make it happen, and for it not to get the appreciation that it's getting now on the internet. But it came out in 18, came out in February of 23rd of 2018. And people are now seeing it. I get it, but now I'm on to another special. I've done maybe 2 specials since then. You know, so your work, when you do work, you want it to be appreciated, and maybe get appreciated over time. But I think these messages are in the moment. Like it I see something, I'm like, yo, this is needed right now, and nobody's making a film about this that doesn't glorify it, because I'm not glorifying prison, I'm not glorifying the mistakes, I'm not glorifying any of it. I'm giving you an understanding of whatever you're doing in the streets, whatever mental capacity, you have to get it together, because this is not a place where it's guaranteed that you will survive this. And even if you do survive this, you're going to come home with all type of mental scars.
Well, it's I want to bring up because you mentioned something, and your experience. I also think of Tim Allen, who also did time in the 70s for cocaine trafficking. But the difference is when he jokes about the situation, it's all humor. Like you mentioned your story, Mexicans wearing boots. When you tell the story, yeah, there's humor in it, but there's also that level of danger. Like if when I listen to Tim Allen do his routine that he used to do about jail, at no point do I think, wow, prison is not a place I want to go to. I'm just entertained. When you tell the story, yeah, I'm laughing, but I'm also thinking, shit, all your darkest fears about prison, that's what happens when you're in prison. It's sort of a weird effect because it's funny, but it's also there's that scared straight element to it.
Yeah, that's because I don't want people to ever think that this place is, because it's too much of that. It's a lot of, oh, I can just go do the time. Oh no, sir. Like, let me like, when people are telling these stories, like it's this Oz thing, and it's Orange is the New Black, and it's all humorous, and I'd be chiming in like, wait a minute, there's a boogeyman around the door, and it may not be the physical thing that you used to hear about. Because now people have to look at it and like, Mexican got on boots is one thing, but Mitchell is another. How do you deal with that? In that story, Mitchell, mass majority of the people who like that story are older white women, which is weird. And but then I have to think about it. What is the trauma of somebody violating you and you're never being able to say anything? And then you seeing somebody who's saying like, nah, that ain't gonna work for me. This not working for me. And this is a problem. And you got to understand why this is a problem. And I think that women, a lot of women resonate with that story because they've been in that position where they have been in positions to where they were being violated and they couldn't say anything. They may not be like me, where I'm not tolerating it, and I'm over it. Like this never happening to me again. Nothing like this happening to me again. The fortitude in it, I think that's the part that gives them this empowerment. Like, you don't have to let something happen to you. You don't have to let it. You don't have to wallow in it. You don't have to do that. Like, now, my new stuff, it's not new to me, but it'll be new to people in the presentation of, like, this next special is a lot of Alfred Hitchcock influence. And because I think that what I'm trying to do now is give a different genre of stand up. I think I'm in a different space as a I can guess I can call myself a filmmaker now because I've made my own special. Like, I paid for it. I'm in the process. I'm helping direct. I'm in this thing with it, and I have these ideas, and I just get the people who will help me manifest the idea
Mm-hmm.
that I see. This new special is,
And do you have a name just so people
yeah,
can
Domino Effect 2,
like
Lost.
domino effect, just so people can have something to sort of jot down and know to look for.
The new special, Domino Effect 2, is it's called Lost. And it's very deep, but it's more like a Broadway kind of theatrical play. And I think that's where I'm starting to create something different, or getting in preparation to create something different. Not It won't be just a comics lanes, won't just be the sitcom, or just won't be the movie, or won't be a special. It'll be an aspect in there to where you turn your stand up into a play, and you get other people to act in it as you do your thing. But it's going to take a very special type of stand up in order to merge and move that way. And it's going to you're going to have stories, and it's going to have to be relative to what people can digest in their own life. And I think that's the thing about Domino Effect. At the end of the day, I think it'll be one of the greatest specials of all times against anybody else when it comes to resonating with people. What everybody's been everybody's been 10, and somebody's 10 is not like my 10, but you can see a development. You can see the effects of things in decision making and all these things, and how people grew up with their parents, and whether they grew up separate or whether their parents and how it's a lot to be a part of somebody's life in Domino Effect versus other things that's out there that's a lot of current. Oh, the COVID and the president and the like, like, but
Yeah,
It,
it's comedians are sort of, I consider, the last true artists, because everyone's in the bubble. You know, you have the cinema world, you have the music world, everyone's sort of in this bubble. But comedians being sort of in a dingy basement, you're performing in front of people, different kinds of people in a room, different cities, different everything. And it's like you mentioned, older white women, you know, a particular bit resonating with them. You get to see everyone's baggage. You get to see what everyone is sort of carrying with them. And you get to learn about people, oh, in a way that others don't get to, because you're sort of forced to be in front of them. It's sort of like the opposite of the internet age, where everyone's clicking away on social media, and you know, everyone's a keyboard commando because you don't even know who you're in front of, whereas you have to be face to face.
yeah, I got to see you, and not only that, people drop bags off to me, like drop it in my lap. You know, it's something when somebody comes to you and says, "I came to see you because my husband loved you. Husband loved you. My husband died last month. We had these tickets, but yeah, I came, and I sat where he would want to sit, and I ordered for him, and I sat there and I watched what he loved. That's a lot for me after the show. Got another show, somebody comes to me and they drop in my lap that their husband died, and that's why they came. That's a lot, man. And they do it all the time. It's like my son passed, or my kids incarcerated, or my, it's all these things that, and that's another part of this game that I think people don't get. I get it a lot, man. It's people out there going through things, like really, really going through things, and they'll come tell me after the show and just drop that in my lap, and then I go on stage and I'm gonna say something half the time that you don't agree with up front because you don't understand what I'm thinking. Is it safe to say that people who commit suicide or attempted to commit suicide have never slipped in the shower before? Oh, he's being rude. No, I was on the verge of committing suicide in 2018, and I slipped in the shower. And out of nowhere, everything I was depressed about meant absolutely nothing. Because even though I had all these thoughts, and I'm in Pittsburgh, and I got the cord around my neck, and I'm thinking, and all the rest of this, and ah, none of that came to my mind when I stepped in the shower. Everything came about what I wanted to do for the rest of my life and my kids, and like, and I remember crawling out of that shower with a different. I never get. I call it that shower. I was like, sheesh. Woo! My goodness, it's literally nothing to grab on when you sit down. Like this is my thoughts. Like it's literally nothing. Like my feet was leveled with my eyes, and, and I was like, this is the strongest shower curtain that I've ever. Man, woo! Life has been so much different.
Yeah, I'm thankful someone didn't go to Bed Bath and Beyond and get that rubber mat, you know. So
I was like, oh my, oh my God. I was in a hotel. I was in a hotel, man, and I don't know what was in that shower. I don't know if it was some shower gel or what it was, but when I stepped in there with the hard step too. Like, and before I knew it, I was up in the air, but wanting to live. And it's these things, man. Like I go on stage and I tell people, hey man, I'm having a panic attack right now. Like I'm telling y'all, because in my mind, it is so many terrible things that's going on in my mind. But I'm talking myself down because obviously I can breathe because I'm talking. But in my mind, I can't breathe. And when you tell an audience and you be honest, and they know that you're going through it because they can see it in your face. They can see that you're losing it. And you start getting your bearings together. And then you say, well, I gotta do a story about this event because it's other people that have panic attacks and don't know how to calm themselves. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna tell the story about. It's people who have this that probably was thinking terrible thoughts and they don't know how to cope and they haven't taken a shower yet. So let me say and this is where everything comes from me with an experience that if I'm going through this, somebody may know somebody, they may be going through it. I just want to do comedy that is more than we broke. I've been in hungry or sex. I think it's other things that goes on in people's lives, good and bad, that stories can be told about, and everything doesn't have to be heavy. Some things are just quirky, you know, but it's a release. I think that's the major thing. That I just want to give a release for things that people may be going through or may suffer or may be dealing with or thinking they in this box by themselves, whether good or bad. My friend just came in the barbershop and threw his blueprints on the ground and talking about the city won't let him build nothing. That's hysterical to me. Like, because I know how much blueprints cost. So I'm like, yo, you just threw $1,500 on the ground. So it ain't worth nothing. They won't let me build nothing. Like,
Just a random non sequitur, to break up the day.
yo, man, I'm trying to build a duplex and they give me problems. Hey, man, you need a septic tank. The people telling you need a septic tank. That's it. Man, but that's funny to me. And that's a story. And that's overall a movie. Like, when we talk about films, making films,
Hmm.
people, I think that some people have a leeway to make these films that are very quirky and not really about anything, just uh, uneventful in like Dodgeball. I know this is not going to win Academy Award or anything like that, but Dodgeball was a good movie to me because why? I grew up playing dodgeball, and this is an advanced level, but it's still dodgeball at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, Mr. Deed, the first 50 days, anything that Drew Barrymore makes is just a fun film. Adam Sandler just makes fun films. Like with me, I kind of just want to make fun, thoughtful films, and the only way I can do that right now, is to tell the stories in a special that's quirky and funny. Like, man, this is Domino Effect 2 Lost is so different from Big in These Balls
Yeah.
and so from Domino Effect. It's like it's a roller coaster of things, and it's a completion of the first one. It's an actual sequel. This not like I did this is an actual
Yeah.
sequel where you can literally pick up exactly there. Man, what is going on?
Yeah. Actually, we're coming towards the end here. Ali, I wanted to say thank you. It's been great. Uh, and I want everyone to go and watch Domino Effect too. I want them to go back and watch all the other stuff as well if they haven't already, because you know you're it's your filmography. it's with each special you're growing. So thank you so much
Oh
for
no, man,
coming.
this has been, and everybody know I say this very, very, I hold this very tight to my vest. With interviews, I don't do a lot of them.
Mhm,
Because most of the time, people would they would have the interview would be terrible for me.
mhm,
Like I can tell that these people don't know me. They
mhm.
just try, and they haven't done anything. I'm gonna say this. It's been like maybe 5 interviews that I have absolutely loved over the last 25 years of my career. And
Thank
this
you.
is definitely one of them. Anytime I would, yeah, I would talk to you anytime. Send a request to Joe or send it to me whenever, whatever you want to talk about, man. I'm all game.